You can reach out to God. God is your father. He's there for you. You're never alone. And you can overcome anything, and your path might look different and your path might go a little bit slower, supposedly. But if you keep making the right choices to, move forward in a good way, you'll be totally fine. Everything will work out in the end. You got this.
Welcome to the Elevated Limits podcast show. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Elevated Podcast. Today we have a special guest in the building. I had a friend, DM me a while back, mentioning that she should get on a podcast. And several months later, we connected. She's now part of the Elevated Limits fam. But she is a mom. She has her own law firm. She's hardworking. She's an entrepreneur. Please help me welcome Rose Harper.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to have you on. It's crazy, like what I said in the introduction, like how several months later, how everything just kind of came full circle. We met, and now you're here, right? And I think it was a year ago. We know Tony Flats, right? Like you guys have worked in the past. He's brought me up to you. He showed me your content and stuff, and then I don't know. It's just like life goes on. And you're getting busy, and you forget. And now we're here making it happen. And I'm just really excited about it.
I'm so excited. And I think it just goes to show that, like, sometimes timing is everything. So for whatever reason, this was the time that we were meant to connect.
Yes.
And I was able to join your program, which I'm so excited to start.
We're excited to have you.
Yeah. And then now we're getting to chat. So this is perfect.
I love it. And our conversation when you came in for your meeting was incredible. That's the longest meeting I've ever had with anybody. Normally those consultations are only like 30 minutes. Yours was like an hour and 48. Like I looked at the time and I was like, yo.
I was actually wondering, I was like, wow, like this is a lot of time that you guys spend doing this. No. I'm like, I don't know if this is a great business model, but.
No, it was a really good conversation. And I'm looking forward to this conversation right here. I see there's 2 books you have here. You mentioned you got me some gifts. Can we dive into that a little bit? Like, what do you have here with you?
Okay, so the first book I have to give you is called Wear Clean Underwear. I didn't write it, but I'm a part of a program, and I have the license to give this away as an ebook for free. So what I'll do is I'll send you a link, so anyone who listens to the podcast who wants a free copy of this book can sign up for it through my link, and I wanted to give it to you. It's actually a book written about different stories about individuals and what happens to them, whether they have an estate plan in place or don't. So that's what I do. I'm an estate planning attorney.
Love it.
And the stories are really compelling, and it just kind of gives a glimpse into, what would happen in different situations. So it's really educational as well.
Love it. And then what's that second book you have here?
Okay, the second book is the one that we discussed a little bit, and I definitely want to dive into this conversation with you today.
Yes.
So this book is called Love and Respect. It was written by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs, and he's a Christian counselor and pastor, I think. So this is really for you and your wife.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And I bought the book, but I also am listening to it on Audible because it's on audiobook.
Well, listening to audiobooks is a game changer.
Yes.
And have you ever listened to an audiobook and read it at the same time? Like have it open in front at the same time? The way you're able to retain the information that you're reading is through the roof. I just started this like a month ago, and I'm like, I don't ever want to read the same ever again.
Well, I think that that's also like a generational thing because what I realized with my older son going through school is that the way they were teaching literacy was really different. And it had that audio component along with like a guided text. So I think there is something to that when you receive both the audio and the visual, and you can take notes. But that book in particular was really amazing. It was so enlightening. And I think everyone should read it. If you're engaged, if you're married, definitely take a look at that book, Love and Respect.
Okay. So we're going to dive into this a little bit later, but I want to start off in the beginning so people get to know who you are. Who is Rose Harper, right? You're an entrepreneur. You have your own law firm. You're a lawyer. You're clearly a hardworking person. But tell us about your childhood and how that shaped you and who you are today.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm the youngest of three siblings.
Wow.
Um, and I grew up in a really small town in New York. And my dad actually ended up becoming the police chief of the town I grew up in.
Wow.
Not while I was still like in high school or anything. He became the chief much later, but he was always a police officer in the town. And it was a really small town, so I could literally walk to school. I could walk to high school, middle school, elementary school, and yeah, I guess coming from a family that was really tight knit, I'm half Italian, half Irish, so I have like hundreds of cousins.
That makes sense.
And we were always just all together. So like every holiday,
I love that.
I just always grew up with like a really large network and community of people around me, which was amazing. And I think that's really what's driving me to create my own law firm where I can create a community of people where I can be their go-to legal
Love
resource.
it. So you're an entrepreneur, right? You're very hardworking. Where does that come from? Did you see that modeled from your dad or your mom, or is that something that you feel like you were just born with?
I think there's like a lot of factors that go into what motivates an individual. So growing up, I guess there was a sense that like, you know, my parents accomplished a certain amount, but then I saw like, so my dad was a police officer and my mom was a nurse and then she worked for the telephone company. We definitely did not have a lavish lifestyle, but we had like a secure home, like a good enough lifestyle. We could go, you know, on vacation once per summer and things like that. But I think kind of also getting the perspective of my friends' parents. Like I was always that kid that I just like I was over my friends' houses, but I was asking their parents questions.
Why were you curious? You just wanted to see like a different, like, did they have a different kind of lifestyle and you want to know what their parents did? Like, explain that. Is that literally what it was?
I feel
or you
like
just
was
nosy?
Weird. Yeah, I was like weird. I was just like, no, I was just like always asking. Like I guess I always recognized that everyone has something to give, and right. So if I wanted to learn, I'm a lifelong learner.
Yeah.
So I would just always seek out opportunities where, like, let me find out what do they know, like how did they get this mansion, like what are they doing, or it could be even like other families, like maybe they didn't have a lot monetarily, but they just had like such a close, fun, like laughter household, and like what are they doing to achieve that? Just kind of always taking those little notes. But in terms of work ethic, really what probably sparked my work ethic the most was having my first son. So I was really young when I had him.
I want you to go more in depth. You were 17 years old.
Yes.
In high school.
Yes. I
want to ask you this, Rose. Like, what were the initial thoughts when you first found out that you were pregnant in high school?
So on the topic of teen pregnancy in general, I would say that, you know, like it was not uncommon within my family if I actually think about it. So my parents were high school sweethearts, became teen parents. My dad's sister, the same thing. She had a child very young. She had many children, but her first child she had when she was very young. The child she had as a teenager, but also high school sweethearts with her husband, and they're still married, and you know, and they had kids. And she had a child very young. So when I look at it, it's like, well, I kind of had this story already written within my family that people get married very young and have children very young, and you can find your spouse in high school. Yeah. And I kind of romanticized that. And so when I got my first boyfriend, I thought, this is forever, you know what I mean? But I unfortunately missed the piece where it's not just about like tans and muscles. You have to like look for values that are going to last a lifetime.
For sure.
And we were just so young, and it did not end up working out. But, you know, that experience of having a child very young was incredibly isolating. And my entire world changed. I went from being like playing all these sports and having a ton of friends and parties and, you know, thinking about colleges to you have another human you have to be fully responsible for. Yeah. Not just for their day-to-day life, but like providing for financially and everything else.
Yes. 1,000%.
So it definitely turned my world upside down. I pretty much lost all of my friends because they were doing things they should be doing at that age of life. Yeah. And I couldn't be participating in any of that. So I had to just, buckle down. Instead of going off to college, I went to community college.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God my parents helped me. I live with them. I went to community college. And I had like mentors along the way that guided me. So there were certain people that came into my life at very specific moments. And when they imparted their wisdom, I listened and I applied it.
Good.
So, like when I got pregnant, I met with actually the superintendent of our school because
Wow.
I was a very good student. Like, I wasn't the typical statistic that you would think would be a teen mom. So, like, my grades were really good and they were trying to encourage me to stay in school. But I just felt too uncomfortable to do that. So,
Yeah.
instead, my school district offered for me to finish night classes and then that way I could like work during the day. So that's what I decided to do. So I got a job during the day while I was pregnant at 17.
Wow.
I went to night classes in high school at night. I finished early because I pretty much had enough credits to graduate. Like I didn't really need my senior year, but there were certain classes like I didn't anticipate that I wouldn't want to be going to school senior year. So like I needed one more, I don't know, English class or something,
Right.
one more gym class. So I did that at night, and the superintendent encouraged me like, you don't know what's to come in your life, and you need to continue on with your education because you might have to financially support your family.
Wow.
So focus on education, keep going. Like you're a good student, you can do it. So I went to community college, and it was so devastating to my ego. I have to go to community college.
Yeah, that's a lot of kids deal with that though, right? Like you're like, I'm way too smart to be here.
Yeah, and how silly is that to think, like at that time, looking back, I'm like, to myself, like, girl, you got pregnant. You had a baby. Of course you can't go to college. You have to go to community college. But honestly, the community college, I was in Westchester County, New York, and my professors were like Columbia University grads, NYU grads,
Whoa.
Yale, because they all just wanted to give back to the community, and
Yeah.
that was their way. So they were like really, really smart. I got an amazing education
Yeah.
for nothing. And and so after community college, I was able to get a scholarship to a 4-year school.
Mm.
Yeah.
So where did you end up getting your 4-year, like your scholarship to?
So I went to Mercy University, and I got a half academic scholarship because I did so well in community college. And then I also got a half volleyball scholarship.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about, I want to kind of dive a little bit into that, your teen pregnancy a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Was there any sort of doubt you had initially when you found out that you were pregnant? If so, kind of what was it that motivated you to like, I know you mentioned the superintendent talking to you, people giving you wise counsel, but what kind of was it that made you say, you know what, like, there's more out there for me. My life isn't over. I want to keep going. Like, I want to go to school. I want to finish. Like, what were you thinking about? Like, what made you want to even like continue and not just give up and fall into being a regular statistic of just saying, I'm a teen mom now. I'm going to just work and that's it.
So I think that kind of, I would need to like go back to my decision to even, have my son. So when I got pregnant, there were friends, family, a lot of people who were trying to encourage me to not continue the pregnancy. And then even if I continued it, perhaps give him up for adoption. But when I thought about it, I actually went to see a social worker, and like I had really thought things through. Like, I just believed in myself. Like I am capable of doing this. I want him. And like if my parents had chose differently, then my brother wouldn't be here.
Wow.
And he's such an amazing person. Like I'm so grateful to have him in my life.
Yeah.
And like he wouldn't be here if they chose that. And then like for example, like my aunt, like with her daughter, if she didn't have her, then her granddaughters, my cousin had 4 girls who were like the most amazing people. They're like such great community members. They're like so lively and caring. And one of them is married and has 2 daughters as well. If you just like see and look, like, I mean, at the time, obviously they were little, so I didn't see all that lineage, but just kind of thinking about my family, like, okay, well, everyone's doing okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the end of life. It's not to
Yeah.
have a baby. And so I just really felt strongly that I would be able to do this and that my parents would help me. And
Love
they
it.
did. And that I could do it. So just kind of making that initial choice, like, and then once I had him, there was a lot of
Yeah. So
uphill battle.
how do you navigate that now? You're talking about you went to community college. I'm sure he should be born by then while you're
Yeah.
in community college, and then you're deciding to go to a 4-year school now. Like, how are you balancing being a mom and getting a 4-year degree and studying to go to law school? You know what I mean? Like, how do you juggle all of that?
Well, like, thank God for my parents. They really helped me a lot. So I
Hmm.
didn't have to worry about paying for like housing. They had already like gotten me a car. So I
Oh,
had
that's
housing and a
awesome.
car. I didn't have to worry about that. And even after like when I first had him, like my mom took a month off from work and she like taught me
Wow.
everything. Yeah. She was amazing. She taught me like, you know, if he's crying, there's one of three things. So you just see if he's hungry, see if he needs to be burped, see if he needs a diaper change. And if it's none of those three, you just hold him and walk around. Just like really teaching me those
Yeah.
motherly things. And honestly, I feel like I'm so blessed that I got that. And I
Yeah.
don't know that I would have gotten that had I had children later in life. And it was because I was so young that people, surrounded me. My mom like took that time and really like
Yeah.
taught me how to be a great mom. And so there were a lot of blessings along the way. Of course, there was so much hardship as well. Like I kind of
For
touched
sure.
on the isolation, the loneliness, and some other really challenging hurdles. But oddly enough, like it kind of worked out really great because I would kind of go to class. Class is only 2 to 3 hours a day. And then I would be with my son the rest of the time. So I didn't hang around. I didn't have the typical college
Yeah.
experience of going to parties. While I was in college, I actually worked at a gym, New York Sports Club,
Oh, wow.
and I worked in the kids' room so I could bring my son. I
Wow.
can't believe they let me do that. Yeah. Like looking back, I'm like, I had all these things like that
Work
worked
in your
out for
favor.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that when lean on your community and your network and
Yeah.
you're not scared to just say, like, I need help with this. This is what's going on. Do you know anything? Like, that's the whole purpose of community is to like
Yes.
come together and, help everyone to, rise up.
Yeah.
And
And I think that's something we need more of in today's age, right? Like, I think people are more isolated now than ever. Everyone's kind of in their own world. And like when it comes to taking care of the next generation, it takes a village, as one would say, right? So we need each other, we need community, we need people helping one another. So I'm so glad you brought that up. You get to your 4-year degree. What's the school again? I forgot. I'm sorry.
oh, Mercy
Mercy.
University. And I actually still teach there as an adjunct professor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when you get there though, what makes you decide that like, law school is something that you want to pursue and do?
So while I was at Mercy, obviously I said like I had the half academic scholarship. So I became a member of like the honors club and we used to meet for lunches. Like that's the only reason I was able to participate because it would be like a free lunch, like in between classes.
Yeah, you're always figuring out the loopholes and the benefits of everything.
I'm very resourceful.
Yeah, I see that.
So I'm like free lunch and I get to network with smart kids. Let's do this.
Hmm.
So I went to honors club and in that club, most of the people there were either going on to medical school or law school or something like that, a PhD, something.
Yeah.
They had big dreams. So as a part of that group, one of the guys that was in the group, was going to law school and, I was like, I kind of finally admitted, like, I don't know, I might be interested, but I obviously can't. And, he was like, why can't you? Because you have a kid? Like, that shouldn't
Mm.
stop you. Like, academically, you can do it. So, that's really no excuse. So I had that experience with him encouraging me. And then also, I had one aunt who was a lawyer. I don't come from a family of lawyers, but my mom's oldest sister was a lawyer, and she was our small town lawyer in the small town I grew up in. And she was not a businesswoman. She basically did a lot of legal work for free. I think when she passed away, she maybe
Wow.
had negative money. Yeah,
Wow.
but she was an amazing resource for the elderly in our community, and I interned with her. Um, and I just kind of saw how she was a resource and people would call her, even if it was something that she didn't do, it was like kind of law related or whatever. She would just say, I'll call them back in 3 hours. She would do the research for them. They're not paying her.
Wow.
And then she'd call them back and tell them what they needed to do and how to proceed. But I spoke with her and I was like, Aunt Kathleen, like, I don't know. Do you think I could do what you're doing? And she was like, yes, you can.
Wow.
So she encouraged me. And at the time, of course, my poor parents by now, my son and I have been with them for my past 4 years of college. They're like, oh, can this girl get a career going?
Yeah.
But no, they were amazing. They did not pressure me. But they really wanted me to go into education and become a teacher. So that way I would have the same schedule as my son. It's job security. I totally understand why they were encouraging me to do that. So I had started a master's in education because in New York, you have to have your master's degree. I hated it. I was miserable. It was horrible. It was like not for me. So I had like that. Everything happens in time, right?
Yes.
So I was in that situation where I was really miserable in my graduate program, and school was always a place where I excelled. So I knew that was a problem. There was something wrong. So that was not where I was meant to be.
Right.
And then I had this kind of internal desire that I was trying to grapple with and admit that I actually think I want to go to law school. Like, I mean, it's crazy looking back on it. Like,
Right.
you had a kid at 17. Now you have the audacity to think you can go to law school. And then it's not only that, it's like so finally I had a conversation with my dad and I was like, this is what I really want to do. So he just said, okay, take the LSAT, which is the exam to get in.
Yep.
And we'll see if you get anywhere. I got into like almost every school I applied
Wow.
to. Yeah, and I got into like a top 20 law school. I got scholarship offers. I did not have a super high LSAT score, but of course I have the compelling life story and things like that.
Right.
So, and I had a unique undergraduate degree. I majored in Spanish. So I think that, certain things kind of set you apart.
For sure.
And I definitely was really blessed to get into so many places. And then I ended up choosing Seton Hall Law right in New Jersey.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow.
Kind of part of my journey.
You know what's really unique about your story is like you had so many people encourage you along the way. And it goes full circle back to what you said. Community is so important. And you need people encouraging you and uplifting you. Because sometimes we have doubt, right? We don't know, can we do that? Is it possible? But then you have like those little angels, like you mentioned, like your aunt and those friends you had in school. And they're just like, no, you can. Like, it's just because you have a kid, it doesn't mean you can't do what you feel like you can do. I want to know, what was it about law school? I know you saw your aunt, helping the community and helping but what about law, like being a lawyer specifically, like made it like intriguing to you?
Well, I always enjoyed, like my favorite class in undergrad was Introduction to Communications, which was public speaking, which is the class that I'm teaching now at my undergrad.
Makes sense.
So I think I also had a professor in undergrad who happened to be a priest, Professor Franco, and I just really adored him. He was like, so funny. Oh my gosh. So I asked him, like, what's the secret to happiness? And he said, find something you love to do, figure out how to make money at it, and live nearby where you work. So I thought, okay, that's simple enough. I can probably do that. And I just thought about what are my natural God-given skills.
Yeah.
In addition to what do I enjoy. And when I combine those together academically, they all kind of pointed towards, okay, maybe it could be something with the law.
Yeah.
But I really honestly did not know 100%.
Yeah.
I didn't know, but I knew internally, like, I think I can do this and I want to. And I was willing to take the risk and the sacrifice because it was a big risk. I mean,
Huge.
a lot of student loan debt. I was risking a lot of student loan debt. A lot of students the first year of law school, they flunk out. They don't make it.
Right.
And then they have student loan debt from that first year, which is significant, and they didn't make it past the first year.
Right.
And then even if you get through the 3 years, you have to take the bar exam, and some people can't pass that. So, I mean, truly, I had to really believe.
Yes.
I had to believe that I was capable. I had to believe that I was going to put in the work to make it happen. And that's what it really is. It's the sacrifice and the work. And if you're willing to put in the work, you can really accomplish anything in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for people who don't know what estate planning is, how would you explain that? And how would you explain like what it is that you actually do now today? You have your own law firm.
Yes.
How long have you been in business for now? It's new?
It is new. I only opened my law firm like 8 or 9 months ago.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you're a baby in,
Yes.
in the law firm world. But explaining to people what is estate planning and what is it that you do for people?
So I help people put plans into place to help guide their family when they cannot be there for them.
Mm.
So as a part of the document-wise, it includes wills, trusts, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, and things like that. But on an emotional level, it's really, protecting your legacy, making sure that what you want is documented, and then ensuring that your assets can transfer easily to your family so that they can go through the grieving process and not be stressed out, not knowing what to do. And then also really now anticipating who do you want to raise your kids. So when people pass away without a plan, a judge who's a stranger to you and a stranger to your kids will decide who raises your kids.
Wow.
So it's a lot to think about, and I
Yeah.
really enjoy educating and empowering my clients so that they can make the best decisions and really get that security. It's such a peace of mind when you have your estate plan in place, and I think people have this misconception that it's only for the uber rich. It's really not. It's really for everyone.
Wow. So is estate planning essentially like just planning for when you're gone, meaning who gets control of your properties, like who has your properties, who takes care of your kids, like basically like organizing everything to like who gets what before you're gone, before a judge or someone like you said, a judge or somebody you don't know makes that decision for you. That's what I'm hearing.
So you want to document it, meaning having it in writing. On top of that, you want to give people the legal authority to be able to do the things you want them to do. So you want to direct them, tell them what they should do, where to find it, and then give them the legal authority to do that.
Wow.
And it, yes, a lot of the focus is on afterlife, but the truth is that there's documents and things that we put into place even for while you're living. So a lot of people don't realize, but people become incapacitated or they can't make decisions for themselves anymore. And this really comes into play with that. Who do you want to take care of things for you even while you're still living if you can't?
Okay, and who is this for? Like, should this be for someone early out of college that, you should get it done right away? Or is this someone, you're in your 40s, you have kids, you have some properties depending on how well you're doing, or you're just someone who has kids and you want to make sure that, when God forbid something happens, your kids are going to be protected in that area. So who is it that you're looking for that should sign up for this that, would benefit the most from it?
So truly, if you're over the age of 18, you should have something done, like a basic will or even just powers of attorney, things like that. Like I kind of, with that age group, like if you're in your 20s, you're working, maybe you've moved to New York and you're working in the city and your parents live in Pennsylvania or they live in Ohio. Well, God forbid something happens to you. How are your parents going to handle things for you? You didn't give them legal authority and you're an adult living in Manhattan. So these are things to think about. I think everyone should kind of consider these things like, well, what actually would happen? I mean, you don't anticipate that and hopefully, hopefully you don't need them.
Right, but you want to be protected, right? Just in
Right.
case, because we live in a world that, it's uncertain,
Yes.
right? And not every day is guaranteed, so.
No one is guaranteed tomorrow.
Right.
And then of course, like if you are married and you have minor children, you need an estate plan.
Right.
I think that that's really what motivated me. I have 3 kids. 2 of mine are really young, and we moved for my husband's job. So we actually don't live nearby family or friends, and getting our estate plan in place really provided me with that peace of mind that, okay, even though my long-term guardians are not nearby, something that I do for all my clients is put together short-term guardians. So who's within 30 minutes, even if it's a neighbor, a friend, someone who can get to your kids in an emergency that we will document the legal authority for your kids to stay with them. Because if not, the police can't just leave them with the teenage babysitter.
Right.
So it's
So
something to think about.
this stemmed from a personal experience where you're like, oh, this is something I should be doing for everyone else because of peace of mind you've experienced. You're like, everyone deserves to feel this kind of peace, right? Is that basically how it went down?
Absolutely. It was kind of my realization, like, oh my God, like, people's families are at risk here and they don't even know, like,
For
so
sure.
I do a lot of education and things like that. So it's been really great. I've really enjoyed it so far.
How's the I want to dive into that too. How's the entrepreneurship journey been for you, especially being 8-9 months into it? Kind of talk about what that has been like for you.
A roller coaster. I mean, I keep telling people, it feels like I'm pulling a boulder up a mountain. But it's been truly amazing. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so motivated. And part of this journey of, creating what I want in my career going forward has forced me to reevaluate and improve my life in all areas.
Love it.
Hence why I reached out to you
Love
about,
it.
Becoming a part of your cohort to get fit and get healthy. So it's just been an amazing journey. And I'm so happy for, where I am and to continue to grow.
For sure. I love that. So I want to ask you about, not only are you an entrepreneur, but like you're a mom too.
Yes.
Right? And you have 2 daughters?
So I have 2 sons and one daughter.
2 sons, 1 daughter.
Yeah.
I know you've done it before where you had your son and you were in college, but like, how are you doing it now, starting so young, like starting so early in your business and having 3 kids? Like, how has it been managing that and still making sure that you're showing up for both things, your best self?
The truth is that all my clients know my kids. I mean, that's the real truth. Like, right now I'm at the stage where I give all my clients my personal cell.
Okay.
So they can text me or call me, but I just like more, like if it's the evening, I'm like, hey, my daughter's in the background, you're going to hear it. And they're like, it's okay. They would rather, get their questions answered right away. And, they're okay with the fact that I'm a family person. I'm a mom and, my kids are going to be around. If there's a snow day, it is what it is. And I'm still going to, get work done.
Yeah.
But, they're with me in the car. So, we just make it work. And, but it was really interesting because I saw this clip on social media and it was like going viral. I can't even remember who did it, but it was like a woman who seemed incredibly accomplished. But she was speaking about how women cannot get ahead, working from their dining room.
Wow. Whoa. Explain that though.
I think there's been this really big push on social media to get women back into the office. And I've seen it even in the legal industry. Like I went to a legal conference in New Jersey and they had an entire panel basically trying to tell female attorneys that you cannot work remote and be successful. You have to get into the office. And I completely disagree. I completely disagree. This is a virtual world. We have international companies who are incredibly successful and they run teams across the world. And you're telling me that you cannot work remote from your home? It's a lie.
Yes.
You can be successful. I have offices in New York and New Jersey. I happen to live in Pennsylvania. I'm remote. I'm virtual. Like I go into the office when I need to, but I can work from my dining room table while my kids are at school. No one else is home. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm, I don't know. I just think so differently about it. Yes, of course, there are things that are really nice to be in person for. It's great to be in person for this podcast, for example. Most of the podcasts I've done have been virtual. But you can still accomplish things and you can still be successful and still be a mom and not have to worry about the long commute to the office.
Right. Just
to sit in your own office and not talk to anybody or still have virtual meetings because your team is across the country. Like, I don't know.
Sometimes I even feel like being in person, like for instance, if you work at an office and you're in person, I feel like there's just more distractions in the office because people like to talk and like not even talk about work. So it's like you're not even being as productive as opposed to being in your house by yourself. You just turn that phone down and you get right to work. There's no one interrupting you.
Yes.
Right. And I also think it may be, I don't know. I don't know about this conference or anything, but it may be people projecting their own struggles of how it is for them working at home and thinking that's the same case for everybody else when we're all unique and we're all different. But I agree with you 1,000%. I think there are people that can work from home and be extremely productive and get the work done and accomplished. But I think there's another side of people that do need to be in an environment that helps them focus more, which is at the office. But to say there's only one way, I don't agree. You know what I mean? I just don't.
I also think it depends on where you are in your career. So I think when you're learning, yes, maybe it is better to be in the office so you can pop into
Yeah.
like a mentor's office and ask questions. But if you're an experienced attorney, it's just a matter of getting your work done or something
Hmm.
like that. Or it doesn't have to be exclusive to an attorney, but whatever industry you're in, like I just think that things are much different now. There's a lot more opportunities to be flexible
For
and
sure.
create opportunities for people. Like I took 2.5 years off when I had my two younger children,
Right.
and getting back into the workforce, I found a law firm that was able to, I got immediately got a job making six figures working fully remote. And, I think that's a testament to my law degree. But like even within my firm, I have three amazing, talented women who are getting back into the workforce. They're coming on part time to help me, but they've been stay at home moms for a decade.
Mm.
And, I'm excited. Like, I'm so excited to be able to pass that forward and, have them have something they're excited to do and get back into the workforce because their kids are getting older now. They're going to go after college and they're kind of like,
Yeah.
well, what am I going to do with all my time?
Yeah, and I think you give raising your kids is a purpose. It is.
Yes.
Um, but there are some women who they do want to just do that. They want to stay at home. It's a preference thing. But there are other women. There's another category of women that want to raise their kids, but they also want to have something outside of that and a purpose. And I think that's what you're providing for your employees, which is really cool and unique because,
Mm.
you can do both.
Yes.
You could be a really great mother and you could have a really great career. I think it just takes the same mindset in the house and the same mindset in your career. So I want to segue a little bit to our book, Love and Respect.
Yes.
You are a wife. You know what I mean? What are some things from this book you've learned to help kind of benefit your marriage? And what were the big takeaways from this? Because we're about to dive into, people are going to laugh, but one of my favorite topics, which is relationships, love. I love talking about love. I really do. But I think the things that I'm most fascinated with, and I don't want to talk too much because it's about you, but I'm the most fascinated with things that benefit your life the most,
Hmm.
right? That's why I talk about Christ. That's why I talk about relationships. That's why I talk about following your purpose and doing the things that you're passionate about. Because I'm obsessed with the things that enhance the quality of your life. And relationships is one of the most important things that you could have in your life. But enough of me. What was it that you felt like you learned from this book, and what were some of the key takeaways?
So, what's really interesting about the book Love and Respect is that it takes on the position that the wife is meant to give unconditional respect to her
Mm.
husband. And to me, that was offensive. That was no, that was, I mean, it was really mind blowing because, well, what if someone else's behavior is not deserving of respect? What if they
Right.
have done something that's not, didn't
Yeah.
earn respect? But that's the point of the unconditional respect. Right.
Unconditional. I
So
like that.
yes, if there's something going on that needs to be addressed, that's not, this book is like very clear. Like, no, there are things that need to be addressed properly.
For sure.
But on a daily basis, when you're interacting with your spouse, are you expressing yourself in a way that is respectful? And when you're hurt, so typically it kind of goes into the dynamic of men and women, and that they call it the crazy cycle. So if you're in that crazy cycle, typically what's happening is, as the wife, you're feeling hurt
Hmm.
and unloved.
Yeah.
And because of that, you're lashing out disrespectfully.
Yeah.
And then the husband is feeling disrespected, so he acts unloving.
Mm.
And then that's that cycle. So I'm going to disrespect you. You're going to be unloving to me. And then we're going to go around in that dance. And like someone has to decide, okay, you have to just decide that you're going to be the mature one and change it and stop acting that way. So even if you keep getting unloving treatment, I'm going to act respectfully despite how you're treating me. And then eventually their behavior turns around.
Right.
And then the same thing for the man. Despite my wife acting disrespectfully, I'm going to keep treating her with love.
Yes.
So it's really hard to break out of that cycle. And then they talk about ways that you can encourage like a more positive cycle to, move forward. And I just thought it was really interesting. Like one of the things that I always say is like the reason that I chose my husband, because I was a single mom for over a decade.
Wow.
Yeah. And like I literally chose my husband. I prayed on it. I, like pray that I decided that I wanted him to be my husband.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that I chose him is because I admire him so much. Like, I truly respect him. I admire him. And that's why I wanted to like be his partner and be with
Yeah.
him for the rest of our lives. But in the course of our marriage and having kids and life, of course, things come up
For
where
sure.
I think I'm expressing myself, um, to let him know that he hurt my feelings.
Hmm.
Oh, but I was
It's
being so
coming off
disrespectful.
disrespectful.
Oh, it was really disrespectful. It was a couple years into our marriage when it finally hit me. Like, my tone is so disrespectful. And then it hurt me that I had spoken to him in that way. It was so upsetting. I was
Yeah.
so upset with myself. But I was raised in a household where I'm half Italian and yelling is
Yeah.
what we do. We're passionate.
For sure.
Okay, but that's so disrespectful.
I want to know though how, because this is a common thing, right? Like, women might have an attitude, let's just say that,
Yes.
right, towards their man, but they don't have the self-awareness to realize that that's what they're doing. They just feel like they're telling them, their husbands, how they feel. But what happened internally for you to have that? Like, did you just have like a moment where you were revealed how you were saying it, or was it constant communication over time? Was it counseling? What was it that kind of opened up your eyes to realize, like, oh wait, what I'm doing isn't right. The way I'm speaking to my husband, I shouldn't be speaking to him like this. Like, how was it the book? Like, what was it that made you self-aware that your tonality of how you speak to your husband is important?
I actually came to that realization before the book with regard to the way I was communicating myself when I was hurt. Like, when I'm, I can communicate very well, like, when I'm not emotionally involved. But
Yeah.
it's like, if I feel like, whatever occurred, I don't know what it is, right? But let's say I'm, like, upset about something. Like, you hurt my feelings. So I'm going to, let you know how I'm feeling. So usually, like, how it would go, for example, like, I try to express myself and I'm not getting anything back. Okay, so I'm not getting anything back. So now I'm gonna really express myself. But what I started doing was I didn't like the result. The result, because my husband does not put up with that. He will not be. You're not gonna raise your voice to him. No one. So his behavior towards me kind of helped refine how I was acting. So I didn't like the result. The result of me losing my cool with him was not getting the result that I wanted, because I wanted tenderness and affection and, like,
Yeah.
we were not coming together because I was expressing myself more, over the top. So I just slowly stopped doing that. And then I noticed, as I was just kind of having more conversations with him about being more vulnerable, like how I was really feeling. Instead of identifying, you did this that caused me to feel that way, I would just express, like, I'm really feeling like this, and then, like, that way we were over time able to kind of work through those situations in a better way. But the book, with the unconditional respect, brought it to another level. It really upped it. Like, I never really thought of it in that way. Like, I guess, like, I knew, like, I needed to be with someone that I respected, because if I wasn't with someone that I truly respect, then, like, it's not gonna work.
No, you would just walk all over them and that stuff. But
Yes.
I love, this is very biblical, by the way, because there's all verses in the Bible talking about how love your wives as life, like Christ loved the church. Which is like a sacrificial kind of love. And then, women, like, respect your husbands and submit under him. And there's all types of verses kind of going into this, but it's spot on though. Like, I would tell Jay all the time, like, all I want is respect. I don't care about anything else. The car, money, I don't care, like, what clothes I have on me. I don't care about any of that. I just care about making sure you're good, our house is good, whatever the case may be, my family's good. I just want respect. That's the most important thing. And I feel like that's how God just designed us. And then all women want is love. You want to feel love. And I think relationships are hard. I think both people need to be patient with one another. But I also think there's a matter of, I always take it upon the man that you have to love your wife even if she may have behaved a certain way you didn't like. I think it comes to like leading, you know what I mean? And this is biblical too. Like, if you lead your wife, and I'm just talking to people out there, if she gives you attitude and you know, you're the first to forgive, you're the first to give grace, you're the first to show mercy over time, your wife is going to model that same behavior. But this is the key to having a successful relationship. You know, loving your wife and the wife respecting their husband. That's just the way we were literally made.
And the thing is that you have to do it even when it's hard.
Yes.
That's really like the key.
It is the key. You got to do it when you don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, we live in a time where people would say, I just don't feel like it. Well, do you want to be in a successful marriage or do you want to get divorced?
Right.
You know, so it's like you got to do things even when you don't feel like it. But then you see the fruit of that. You know, you see the benefit of actually, and you might not see it right away in that instant, but it compounds over time where now you guys may have a disagreement or whatever the case may be, but it gets resolved a lot faster, right? Mm-hmm. Because you guys have constantly worked on communicating the right way and understanding what each person needs. But I appreciate you giving me this book. I think I might read it in like 2 weeks because I'm obsessed with like love books and all that type of stuff. I want to ask you this. Talk a little bit about God and what does that relationship look like for you now in these days? I remember you told me you pray over your kids and stuff like that. You prayed for your current husband now. What does your relationship look like today in 2025, Rose?
I feel so blessed. I feel so connected. I'm just really excited about where I am on my journey with God, with my relationship with God. And it really has been a journey.
Yes,
and
it is.
I think that's like the best part. Like I can look back and think, oh, like where I was 10 years ago versus where I am today. But what you just touched on with like praying for your spouse.
Yeah.
Oh my. So there's this movie, this Christian movie. I don't know if you've seen it. You can get it on Amazon Prime. It's called War Room.
No, I've never seen it. No.
Oh, it's wonderful. Okay, so anyone out there who's listening, definitely watch the movie War Room on Amazon Prime. But essentially, that movie really does a good job of following the journey of a married couple who were having a lot of struggles, communication struggles, and the husband was, having struggles with, being forthcoming and also like lust issues.
Yeah.
And the wife in that journey meets a mentor who teaches her how to pray for her marriage and pray for her husband.
Wow.
And I remember like early on in our marriage, I had watched that movie and I actually literally put a note in my phone and wrote down the prayers from that movie.
Whoa.
Yeah, but be careful because like one of the prayers basically prays that any deceit will be revealed and it will be revealed to you. So just be ready.
Be ready. Be prepared for what you pray for at the end of the day. Like if you're praying for something, understand what comes with that, and sometimes the truth is you don't want to see it, but if you want to, if you really, it's beneficial at the end of the day. I always think of short-term pain is a long-term reward, meaning like if you see something you don't want to see initially and that hurts, you're better off in the long term because you're not being deceived for the entire marriage now. You could handle it right then and there, and now the healing process could then start.
Yes.
Yes. I want to ask you, I got 2 more questions I really want to ask you. I think I just forgot the second one, but the first one is for that girl out there that's pregnant, she's young, she's in high school right now, who's having self-doubt of wanting to move forward with whatever career she wants to do or go to college or whatever the case may be, what would Rose Harper tell her?
That just because you are going to be on a different path than what you thought you would be on it can be just as and even more rewarding than what you thought your life can be. To move forward, with confidence that you're capable, that you are loved. I think that's one of the biggest things when I was young, even though everyone says like, oh, God is love or God loves you. But I didn't inhabit it. I didn't really understand or accept it. And I think that I would really, if anyone who is like young and maybe facing a really big challenge like that, where they're pregnant, they're about to have a baby, they're scared, you are like, you can reach out to God. God is your father. He's there for you. You're never alone. And, you can overcome anything, and your path might look different and your path might go a little bit slower, supposedly. But if you keep making the right choices to, move forward in a good way, you'll be totally fine. Everything will work out in the end. You got this.
Love it, love it, love it. And how can people find you? Like, where can they go to book a consultation with you, to get more information, to meet you? Yeah, where can they find Rose Harper?
So I have a website, roseharperlaw.com. My email is info@roseharperlaw.com. I'm on all the social media platforms. I'm really big on LinkedIn, Rose Harper. But yeah, I'd love to connect with anyone who, is looking to grow their network. And I look forward to meeting people.
Love it, love it, love it. Rose, I appreciate you coming on. And I'm also excited for this next journey that we're going to have together now. You joining the fam, working out. We start March 3rd. 5 a.m. morning workout sessions. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. But I appreciate you coming on and just not only informing people, but inspiring young women to keep moving forward. And no matter if you have self-doubt, you can rely on God, because you're never alone. And, just being surrounded by positive people who are going to encourage you. I think it was a beautiful message. And I'm just grateful you were able to join us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And, this was wonderful. And thank you for giving me the ability to talk about these things.
Yes.
Because, I don't always get to.
I also want to tell people, you be on the lookout. Rose might start her own podcast. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. It may or may not happen. I don't know.
We'll see. This might encourage me. Thank you. This might encourage me to do it. So.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. Continue to subscribe, and we'll be back next week with more fire. Stay blessed, everybody.